Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Orange County Legislature special meeting dated Monday, November 8th, 2021. I would ask that you please join me in standing for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I would ask that the clerk please do the roll call. Vero? Here. Paduk?
Here.
Amo? Anagnestakis?
Present.
Benton? Brescia? Cheney?
Here.
Fagione?
Here.
Hines?
Here.
Kulisek? Lujan? Menuda? O'Donnell?
Here.
Miskevich?
Here.
Sassy?
Here.
Sierra? Stiganga? Here. Sutherland? Here. Tautel? Tui?
Here.
Anelli? Here. 14 present. I do not believe there's any public participation this afternoon, so I would ask that the clerk read the notice of special meeting. Notice of special meeting. To the members of the Orange County Legislature, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 2, Section C4 of a legislative manual that a special meeting of the Orange County Legislature will be held on Monday, November 8th, 2021 at 3:30 p.m. in the Legislative Chamber, Orange County Government Center, 255 Main Street, 3rd floor, Goshen, to consider the adoption of the following to it. Resolution revising the proposed 2022 executive budget for Orange County and the 2022 capital plan. The legislature may also consider to take action with respect to any other matters that may come before the meeting by order of the chairwoman of the Orange County Legislature. Thank you very much. I do recognize that County Executive Stephen Newhouse is here with us this afternoon, and I would like to ask him to address the membership in regard to the proposed budget.
So good afternoon, members of the legislature. Congratulations to, I got it. How's that better? Congratulations, first of all, good afternoon to all the legislators, and congratulations to everybody that was reelected. Congratulations to the two that were voted off, or got themselves voted off the island, Jimmy Kulisek and John Vero. The rest will be here for the next 4 years with us, and as we go through this journey. So, like we do usually with the budget process, it's usually an open process. People have questions. You ask the departments. I work with many of the legislators reach out to me and ask me my opinion on things or why things were done this way. But I wrote a one-page letter. Some of you guys might have had a chance to read it, and some of you haven't, but I'm going to sum it up real quickly. I literally bring up 3 points. One is I reviewed the proposed changes that the legislature made for the 2022 executive budget, and I concur with your changes. Number two, there was a little bit of confusion with the tourism budget. And this is on behalf of the legislature and the executive. I think we intend to give the tourism department, make the film person a full-time person based on the amount of attention and that we've gotten. And I think that was articulated by the legislature and the tourism department in the budget process, but was not reflected properly. So the one thing that I recommended that we change is the part-time position would go to $56,626, and the money that was allocated for a part-time person was $84,326. So the intention of us, I believe, of both the body of the legislature and the county executive, was to make that position full-time. That was not articulated in the actual budget changes. The third thing, and this is based on a number of things. We're seeing this all over the headlines. Other counties giving money away, giving cars away, giving $500 checks because of the stimulus money. There's so much money coming in. And we have lowered the tax rate in my proposed budget, but there's been some talk, and other counties are doing this. Westchester has done this, and other counties around the state, was to get rid of the increase in the levy for next year because the counties are doing so well. We've been back and forth on this. I know you guys have argued this to yourselves and maybe with your colleagues. Some of our financial advisors, the budget department, the finance department, our financial advisors have gone back and forth on this as well. because we're doing great right now, and sales tax is through the roof. But we have to remember that sales tax that we're getting excited about right now is based on 7 months. 12 months ago, we were not looking at that trend. So a lot of the financial advisors were elected officials, were politicians, but the financial advisors like a longer trend. So what I'm recommending today is to get rid of the increase in the levy for next year, which is $2.5 million, and reduce our tax rate again to 3.436. And, you know, we could go more, we could go less. The reason why I'm recommending that to you today is that we got some potential issues in the future. You know, you can go through all sorts of things. One, we don't have a long trend on sales tax. Number two, we don't know where costs are going to be for us in the next couple of years. We've gotten great accolades. When people talk about Moody's, talking about the executive budget, that's not the county executive. That's the legislature and executive. We run the show here. It's a two-part relationship here, and they've given us accolades. So is the comptroller's office. If we were doing something wrong, they would have pointed it out, and you wouldn't have everybody here reelected in the numbers, because I think you guys are doing a good job, and I think the county's in good shape. Could things get better? Of course, we know that. I'm concerned about some of the costs. You know, some of the departments are using massive fund balance in order to balance their budgets. That's going to be a problem in a couple of years. So I'd like to continue to be fiscally conservative. The last thing I want to talk about is real quick our bond rating. We have a very good bond rating. We've been able to strengthen it. We've gotten great accolades on it. In order to get to the next level, they are recommending that we have $100 million in fund balance. We've built that up over the last 8 years. We don't have to, but it is something that we can strive to go towards to continue to increase our financial strength. So those are some of the things as we continue to have this relationship going on for the next 4 years. So that is my recommendation to you. The chair and I talked to her earlier this morning, and she asked me to come here and just bring that to you. But I am happy with this budget. I think it was, you know, we continue to head in the right direction. So again, it's not perfect. People have different opinions, but I think overwhelming the majority of us are heading in the right direction. And I appreciate your guys' cooperation on everything. And do you want me to stay up here, Katie? You want me to take some questions, complaints?
I don't know if there are any questions, but at this point, thank you.
Paul Ruskevich is taking all my complaints from me today, so thank you, Paul.
Paul's
I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments and your attention to detail as far as this budget process has been, and you've been a very cooperative partner in this, and we do appreciate that. So I'm going to move on to the agenda items. Number 1. Did you want to hold the question for under?
Yeah. Did you read number 1 in or?
No, we haven't read it in yet. Okay. Right.
Legislator Benton, resolution revising the proposed 2022 executive budget for Orange County.
Second.
Right. Before I take any comments or questions, just to give you an idea, and for those of the public that may be watching or will be watching in the future, these are the changes that were made during statutory committee meetings this past month. And in the legislative budget, we did add monies for technology upgrades to the chamber. In assigned counsel, as per the county attorney, we just made some line item changes there. In the county executive's budget, we removed 2 proposed positions and added 1 assistant to the county executive. And then in central services, we removed the 2 proposed positions and added 1 assistant to the county executive. That was kind of a swap between those 2 different departments. For EMT, we added monies for recruitment, and this had to do with I believe, Legislator Hines, the ambulance services, correct? And then in tourism, we had made some changes to Fund 1 tourism assistant, and this is what the county executive was referring to when it didn't necessarily meet our goals, so we might want to make some changes there. In Veterans Cemetery, we did change 1 part-time laborer to a full-time position. In the historian, we defunded the proposed position In the Water Administration, we restored funding. In DPW, we added additional monies for the Greenwood Lake Commission. Then moving to refuse and garbage, we have the RFP came in 4.25 higher than budgeted, so we made an adjustment there as well. And in IT, we removed the proposed positions. So those were the changes that we're referring to in item number 1 of this resolution. Any comments or questions as it relates to that? Majority Leader Vero.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'd like to make another motion to amend the tourism budget by removing the tourism assistant position and instead increase the part-time film specialist to a full-time position. Total amount for this increase would be $56,626 as opposed to the $84,326 added for the tourism assistant.
You did that.
Thank you, Deb. Okay. We do have an amendment to that particular, one of the changes there. Do I have any discussion or questions or comments on that? I would just check, Deb, you have the appropriate adjustments to make as far as that is concerned, correct?
Yes, I have the adjustment, and I will give you an updated sheet right after the meeting on our timeline.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Mr. Nagustakis?
No, no, that, we'll vote on that.
We're going to vote on that right now, just so I can keep track. Okay, anything? All right, so then for the adjustment that was just proposed, I'm going to do, should we do a roll call vote on this? I believe we have to do roll call.
Bureau,
Yes.
Paduk,
Yes.
Anagnestakis,
Yes.
Benton,
Yes.
Cheney,
Yes.
Fagion,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Kulisek,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Riskevich,
Yes.
Sassy,
Yes.
Stiganga. Yes. Sutherland,
Yes.
Tui,
Yes.
Benelli.
Aye. 15 ayes. The motion is carried. Any other comments on this part of the budget? Legislator Anagnestakis.
Well, on the budget in general, right?
Everything but the capital plan.
Outstanding, thank you.
Well, actually, I'm going to correct myself here. These are in regard to the proposed changes that were made at statutory committee.
No,
Or, so you have something in addition to?
something in addition to that.
Okay. Let me just make sure that there aren't any other changes to the statutory committee.
Really confusing. You want us to make our proposals, or we want to make some additions or changes now? That's what this meeting's for? And make our comments now, or are you just,
I'm just trying to do it in fashion, and you'll have,
just
yes.
doing if we want to change?
Yes, is there anything else in what I just mentioned? Okay, so then we're going to move on to another, are there any other changes as far as the operating budget
Yes,
is concerned?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Majority Leader Bureau, please.
I'd like to make another motion to amend the current budget by reducing the tax levy by an additional $2.5 million, which would also reduce the rate to 3.436. This will still leave the county in strong financial shape for 2022 and bring the tax levy pretty much back to where it was last year.
Right, so we have a motion in regard to that. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Anagnestakis. Oh, you already seconded? I'm sorry. Well, does anybody else want? Okay, let me get there. Deb, did you want to add to clarification for this?
Sure, just wanted to let you know that we will reduce the tax levy, and we will increase sales tax. And we will also put in a corresponding amount to municipality sales tax also.
Okay. Minority Leader Paduk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, there's a lot of concern for me here. This process has never been like this over the 24 years I've been here. Mr. Newhouse gave us his county executive's recommended budget. It's not his opportunity to come here and tell us to change it now. It's up to us to change it. I think that's out of order, and I don't think he has the authority to actually come here and change his budget right now or ask us to change it when he's had his opportunity. It's our turn to change it now. So I'm going to make some comments right now, and we'll go from there.
Let me just clarify that we're the ones that are making these changes, and he has every right.
Okay, then let me comment a little further. This process goes to the budget hearing. I don't know where the changes are coming from. He says, just said sales
It was
tax.
just explained to you, Mr.
I know, but why didn't we have this during committee? Why is it after we have the county executive's budget? Because he knows there's other proposals coming, that's why. And he knows it's the right thing to do when you're making so much money and can't reduce the tax levy so there's no increase. So I'm gonna read my little thing here, if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
And I told you I would work with you on my proposal, so I'll read them all at once, and then you guys can say yes or no, and we'll go from there, I guess. So during the department budget hearings, I proposed many reductions to reduce taxation to our constituents. During all of those budget hearings, I received support from the Democratic caucus, but not from any Republican members of the committees. For the past 8 years, I've been talking about our department's spending trends as a way to use a more specific way to analyze the budget and do a better job in our role in oversight of the county executive's proposed budget and as a way for us to reduce taxation. For the 2022 budget, you all received a 4-year trend. This thing here, in case nobody even looked at it, a 4-year trend spending analysis by our budget department. I don't know how many of you analyzed it or took advantage of all the hard work put into it by our budget director and her department to provide it for us. It's a critical part of our oversight of spending in this budget. However, if you carefully reviewed it, you would have gotten a clear picture how we could reduce taxation by reducing overestimated expenses that I talk about every budget season. My proposals either added to or created a contractual austerity line 579990, which you heard me talk about many times in the department's budget. This line allows the department heads to reduce the overestimated spending where necessary to obtain the savings while reducing taxation without us trying to micromanage their departments. As a reminder, if we approve this budget with only these changes, we will be increasing taxation by 1.86%, when we could be maintaining no increase or even a reduction by adding my proposed changes. And as a second reminder, 2021 budget has a projected favorable sales tax variance of $25.77 million from what was budgeted. For the 22 budget, there's almost $19 million as our auditors have reviewed with us. Yes, no one supports reducing taxation by $2.8 million to allow no increase in taxation at all. Why? All of a sudden, it seems like everybody's supporting it. I'm just very disappointed that it seems that the Republicans here are just going along to get along during this very important budget process, even though we've received pertinent information that can help us do a better job for the taxpayers. So I told the chairwoman that I would read my proposals all at once. They've gone through committee. I'm reintroducing again, hoping that a couple of you or most of you had looked at this plan.
Minority Leader, can I just ask that was your statement in regard to, we do have a motion on the floor as far as the 2.5. So can you just hold on to the other things, because I understand that's something a little different. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. You didn't take it. Okay. Legislator Anagostakis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Paduk. Mr. Paduk was right in what he said. The county executive has no right to change his budget, but I think Mr. Paduk was wrong in what he said, that the county executive isn't changing this budget. We, the legislature, are. But he did come here to tell us what he would like to have done. But when he put the budget together, that's not what he did. But I think the county executive observed the same presentation we all heard from the accountants last week or the week before. And I'm sure he monitored the reaction of this legislature when we were told our cash reserves are going to fly up from 50 roughly million to 185 million. And I'm sure he saw the reaction of multiple people. Mr. Paduch was going to make motions to reduce the county taxation by $2.5 million. I know Mr. O'Donnell was probably going to do that, and I certainly were going to do that. So it's irrelevant which of us made the motion. What we're doing is, we had a budget presented that increased the tax levy on the taxpayers by $2.5 million. Now, I was going to make a long speech, and I'm going to cut it down. You know, there were a few reasons some people might want to keep that. They want to keep an emergency fund, a cushion fund. Well, we have that. We annually like to keep $7.5 million on reserve. It's about $60 million. Well, we're going to have double or triple that amount. If you count Valley View's $45 million, maybe 4 times as much. Other people worry about the bond rating. We'd like to get a little higher bond rating. Well, we heard if we have about $100 million, that's a quantum leap from where we are and probably will get us up a notch or 2 or 3. We certainly will have that. We might even have twice that. The only other reason I could ever think of why people wouldn't want to give this money back to taxpayers is actually a very cynical reason. It's because we do this because we can do this. We do this because there's a 2% tax cap, and we're under the 2% cap for God's sake. And we do this because it's their property. Everyone's property values have gone up, and everyone can afford a little more. And after all, their tax rate, county tax rate went down. Well, they'll be paying more. They'll be paying $2.5 million more. And I was going to say this, but I really don't have to, but I was, that it would be unconscionable to continue to pick the pockets of the taxpayers to get money when we don't need that money. So I believe the motion is to reduce by $2.5 million. That makes a tax levy 0 increase for the taxpayers. We've given them a break this year. Jesus Christ, if we can't do it this year, when on earth can we ever do it? So I'm in support. That would have been my motion. My motion would have been a little different, to take it out of reserves. But if they increase the sales tax, that's fine also. So I will support that. I would have voted for no budget. I would have voted for no budget this year that increased the tax levy on the taxpayers. So I'm glad the executive heard what we heard. I'm glad the executive saw what all of us were about ready to do. And I'm glad the executive is aboard with what the legislature wants done. And so I will support a reduction of $2.5 million on the tax levy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Legislator Stockton. Legislator O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So this is for budget. So we're taking $2.5 million and reducing the tax rate to 3.436. And what was the tax rate last year?
355.
355 was last year. Thank you.
Point of information?
Let me just make sure Mr. O'Donnell is finished. Yes, Legislator.
Just to confirm and to make sure, in addition to that tax rate being reduced to those levels, the tax levy will have a $0 increase over what the tax levy was last year, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Majority Leader Bureau.
Putting the budget together, is a long process. It starts back in June, really, so we're 5 months into putting this budget together. At that time, there was a lot of uncertainty by us and where the sales tax was going to be and when and where we're going to be coming out of this COVID-19 mess. I think the county executive, as was mentioned earlier in some other comments, listened to the budget presentation, the accountants and what they had to say about it, and it's reactionary now. And he realizes too, we can get away with a 0% tax levy increase this year. We may not be able to do it every year in the future, but we can certainly do it this year. So I applaud him for that, and I applaud us for pushing that through.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Are there any other comments on this particular item? Okay, and actually, thank you for mentioning that, because I was going to mention that, you know, with the budget process, this budget is starting to be put together back in May and June of the year, and obviously in this particular year especially, the picture has changed dramatically since May and June. So I think we all obviously paid attention, and we've made the correct adjustments. So at this point, I'm going to ask the clerk to read the roll, please. Bureau?
Yes.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnestakis?
Yes.
Benton?
Yes.
Cheney?
Yes.
Fagion?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Kulisek?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Riskevich?
Yes.
Sassy?
Yes.
Stiganga?
Yes.
Sutherland?
Yes.
Tui?
Yes.
Benelli?
Aye.
15 ayes, motion carried.
Also,
There's other changes.
yes, yes, please. Yes. I stand corrected. Thank you, Minority Leader. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Floor. You know, I think it's great that we can reduce it. It's a little odd that it happens like this. I mean, it's good that it happened, but the fact is, let's add to it. We have the ability as the legislature to add to it. Now we can address the proposals that were in committee and some additional proposals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you all of the proposals, not all, most of the proposals I made in committee with an opportunity to reduce it even further. So let's see which side you really are on. Just to okay 2.5, or maybe do a little bit better job like we could do with all this extra revenue. So my proposals were to require a 5% vacancy factor in all departments that could administer those savings on line 560320. With the vacancy factor that is still active in 2021 budget, as of October of this year, we have saved our taxpayers $21.3 million in taxation, and that is incredible. With this proposal and the following overestimated expenses per department proposals, we could have no tax increase at all, and that is government at its best, which now we know there will be no tax increase, but let's do a little better. Just a side note, you know, I'd like to expand our vacancy review committee from our current 3 members and have leadership be part of it so we could better understand both sides of filling vacancies. I mean, we never hear that reason, why they need it or why they don't or why it's approved or why it's not. But it's important for us to understand it so we can make an informed decision. My second one was real property. The contractual expenses over the last 4 years averaged $311,000 in overestimated expenses. I made a proposal to add line 579990, austerity contractual, at minus $100,000. So all of these I'm going to talk about right now are proposals, if they can get it.
These are motions.
It's a motion, I'm sorry. In the planning department, the last 4 years averaged $244,000 in overestimated contractual expenses.
Point of order. Point of order.
Mr. Anagnestakis.
Mr. Paduk, I applaud what you're about to do, but if you're going to read 5 or 10 or 15 of these, I think, might it not be better to be going one at a time? Because we're going to have to be voting on things, and I, for one, am going to have a hard time remembering each one of these, and how are we going to debate all of them at the same time? But if we make a motion on one item, have a debate, and have a vote, at least it makes a little sense. I leave it up to the chair what she thinks.
Minority Leader Paduk, do you have any idea of how many there are?
Yeah, I do. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and I stopped.
Okay. All right, so then would it be the pleasure of this body to do one each?
Yeah, just a question. These proposals were made in committee, right? And were voted on?
Yes.
Okay.
A couple of minor changes to some, but
You're
most of
bringing
them
them
were
up again?
made, and, I'm sorry?
You're bringing them up again after they were voted down in committee?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I can do right at this meeting.
No, I'm not. I'm just clarifying. Thank you.
Legislator Fagion.
Yeah. Ask and answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for
At your pleasure, I'll do what you need.
at organizational, let's just take one at a time. Yes, please.
So I did my first one with a 5% vacancy factor in all departments that can afford it. Most of the departments, some can't, some can, at 5%.
Minority Leader, I think with that one, you're going to have to be more specific. You can't just, that's pretty subjective.
5% in the department's vacancy, has a vacancy. In other words,
But you also said that can afford it.
right, there are some departments that don't have a vacancy factor, that are full right now, that don't have any funded but unfilled positions. So those departments would be excluded. And there's a lot of departments that have funded.
That's what I
not
mean. I think that the motion would have to be pretty specific. It's pretty subject to interpretation as to who can afford it and who can't afford it. We'd actually have to have line items, and it would have to be pointed out that way.
So I get it, I get where you're going. I'll just remind you again that the vacancies last year, 80% austerity, saved the taxpayers $21.3 million. So if you guys are gonna vote it down, be my guest. The fact is that we're able to fill 95% of the positions we didn't have last year with this proposal, 95%. And I'll tell you what, at next year, at the end of this year, at the end of next year, after you approve or disapprove this, when we come back and we see that there were 5, 6, 7 positions they're funded but not filled, that's taxation that we didn't need to do. The county executive has to approve every single one of them anyway. So he may wait 3 months, 6 months to save some money on his own. The fact is that there's an opportunity to do this, and if the chairwoman wants me to be more specific, I'll have to wait till the next meeting, which is the final meeting, to make changes and have all that pertinent information.
Minor Leader Paducah, I had said that I would be more than happy to work with you, not knowing exactly. But I think if you look at the chart that we just were reviewing with the particular departments, the codes, and where the money is coming from, if we had that to review, I think it would be a lot easier for us to be able to take your thoughts into consideration. But without that, I honestly don't know how to make in a department that can afford it. I don't know what department.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. I would just ask the budget director if by the
so
next...
I'm willing to work with you, but you got to give me something.
I guess I can be more specific. I had a discussion with our budget director about it. I didn't ask for specifics because I don't think the support is there. But I can be very specific in all the departments that have funded but unfilled positions that could have a 5% vacancy factor, which means 5% of those positions, if there's 10, there's 20, however many there are, could not be filled and wouldn't be funded. That's the issue, to reduce taxation. That's what I'm proposing. And Deb, is that a hard thing to do? I mean, for you, or and you don't have to do it right now because there's one more shot at the apple here.
Okay, but there are some departments that already do have austerities.
Okay, so they maybe met that 5%. I'm not sure. But the departments that haven't could be part of the savings to our taxpayers in regards to funded but unfilled positions.
Excuse me, Legislator Nagastad.
Just to make clear, point of information, I keep hearing next meeting, another shot. This is the final meeting to make any changes to the budget. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
Debbie, would you tell us if we are? I'm
I'm going to refer,
reading
excuse me, everybody, I'm going to refer to council. Can you speak to that, please? Thank you.
This meeting would be the last meeting to make any revisions.
We're under a time frame.
It says November 15th is the last day for county legislature to submit changes in the budget to the county executive.
But we are having that meeting today.
Okay, well, there's still time. You've asked me for additional information. I could get it to you by the time you submit it to the county executive.
I don't even know if we have.
You have to advertise for another session.
Exactly.
If you don't want to do it, I mean, this is what we normally do. We make the amendments today as the final before it goes to the county executive for his approval.
Okay,
Once he signs it,
look, this is unprecedented today. This has never happened before. You know, when the
This
county
is
executive-
following the same rules and regulations we have followed for the 12 years I've been here.
Point of information.
Yes, Legislator Kulisek.
Can this meeting be continued, postponed, and carried on?
Not by a vote. I would.
Yes, I'd like to ask the legislative council on that.
Legislative.
Because we have until the 15th to make any changes. There was a continuance of this session. Let him do his homework, get the numbers in line, and then come back.
So the budget has to be completed by the 15th, so any changes have to be done at today's meeting. There isn't sufficient time to present any further changes and to do another special session to do that.
I would ask if we left this session open for 3 days. I mean, we could vote on everything, but leave the session open for 3 days.
There's not enough time for us legally to meet our requirements, and that's what we're being told. So it's either we make the adjustments now, or it doesn't happen.
So then I'll move on from that one since it's not going to be addressed.
I mean, I think you made your point in how you felt about it, and you did that consistently throughout the budget process, and I respect that. You did get your point across.
So I guess we'll go one by one. I'm sure it'll be very simple. Number 2 is real property. I read this. The contractual expenses over the last 4 years averaged $311,000 in overestimated expenses. I wanted to add line 57990, austerity contractual, at minus $100,000 for real property.
All right, so for real property, do I have a second?
Yes.
We have a second. Discussion. I saw Mr. Faggione's hand, followed by Mr. Cheney.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just a question. Was this presented during the budget process, in the committee process?
It was, yeah.
And what was the vote on this during the committee process? Was this voted up or down?
Well, I think you know that answer, Mr. Fagione.
I just would like it on the record that, was this voted up or down in the process? I
It
believe
was
it was
supported
voted
by
down.
the Democrats and voted down by the
It was voted down. Thank you.
Mr. Legislator Cheney.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. My recollection of that meeting, Eric Rusher came to us and for this particular maintenance contract line item was proposing to spend the money on new aerial photography for the GIS system. To make this kind of a cut would basically decimate his request and we wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm not prepared to support something that would reverse what was requested by the director.
Thank you, Legislator Cheney. Legislator Anagostakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Duke, I'm going to be voting against this, and I'll tell you why. And the reason isn't because it was voted down in committee. Everyone has the right to come here and propose anything they want, whatever the vote was in any committee. That's the rules of this legislature. But the reason I'm voting against it is because I think I was the one, Deb, that was bringing up the points that Mr. Paduch was trying to say there were, I think, 300,000 or so on average that they were over the last 3 or 4 years. However, you had made adjustments to account for that and to bring that 300,000 number into an even number, an even budget today. So you, in effect, have done what Mr. Paduch was requesting. I think that was the discussion back and forth in that committee. And for that, and I see you nodding your head, my recollection is correct. For that reason, I'm not going to be able to support this, Mr. Paduch. Thank you.
Any other comments on this amendment? All right, we're going to call the roll.
Bureau?
No.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnostakis?
No.
Benton?
No.
Cheney?
No.
Fagione?
No.
Hines?
No.
Kulisek?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
No.
Riskevich?
No.
Sassy?
No.
Stiganga? No. Sutherland?
No.
Tui?
No.
Benelli?
No. Motion fails. I now relieve it to do.
Planning Department, the last 4 years, they averaged $244,000.
Sorry, did you say, I didn't hear what you said at first. Which
Planning.
department? Oh, planning, okay.
Last 4 years, they averaged $244,000 in overestimated contractual expenses. I proposed adding line 579990 to the planning department's budget, minus $100,000. Look, if they're returning 244, they still got 144 that we're taxing everybody on that they're not using. I don't get why you can't support any of these, but it's up to you. So that's my proposal. I need a second.
I have a second. Thank you, Legislator Kulisek. Any comments? Legislator Anagostakis.
Mr. Paduk, you're reducing theirs, putting an austerity, no, you're reducing by 100,000. And you plan to do what with that 100,000? Reduce county taxation with it? You didn't stipulate that.
I don't have to stipulate. It's an austerity. That means it's not getting taxed, and the department head makes any changes they need to reduce the contractual expenses.
I believe we're going to get a comment from budget.
Okay.
No, once you reduce an expense, you have to reduce the revenue, because they have to balance.
Right, so did you propose, and did I miss when I said that you were proposing to reduce county taxation by 100,000?
I think that's what would happen. You put in austerity, it's not taxed, right? So you reduce the taxation, and he's not allowed to spend it, and they figure out the way not to spend it.
That is correct, but in this case, a lot of the money in the planning department is not all county taxation. It gets reimbursed from the federal and the state grants and.
Right, but a lot of it is, so.
So, point of information, I still ask, what is the other half of that equation today? What is being reduced on the other end? It's up to him.
It's up to him.
Well, that's my proposal, so you guys can vote, I guess, Madam Chair.
Did you want to clarify that?
I thought I did clarify, but apparently I need more information for this one too, so there's no
You
time.
need to identify the other side of it. Did you want to withdraw the motion?
Can I amend the motion? Can I make a motion to amend?
What, excuse me. Deb, what are the two options?
You can reduce taxation completely, but considering that about 50% of this is state aid and that probably 20% of it is federal aid, you would probably want, if you're going to reduce your expenditures, you would probably do your revenue in that same allocation.
Can you do that, Mr. Paduk?
Reduce revenue in the same allocation as that? Or that's the proposal?
So is that the proposal? Is that's the motion?
That's the motion, right?
And Mr. Kulisek, that's the second? You second what he just said? Okay. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Bureau?
No.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnostakis?
Yes.
Benton?
No.
Cheney?
No.
Fagione?
No.
Hines?
No.
Kulisek?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
No.
Miskevich?
No.
Sassy?
No.
Stiganga?
No.
Sutherland?
No.
Tui?
No.
Anelli?
No. Next one, Mr. Toombs. Motion fails.
You know, I'll tell you what, I'll stop there. Apparently it's going nowhere. You see the intent here. We've talked about it every year. Mr. O'Donnell mentioned last year to me that we would look at the vacant but funded positions. Get no support there. But let me just stop. I have one other proposal though from Legislator Totel and the Democratic Caucus.
Mr. Paduk, that if you're going to put another motion on, it's from you. It's not from Legislator Totel. She is not here.
It's from me. I do have one other proposal from me and the Democratic Caucus to add the Human Rights Department Assistant to the budget line on line 564320 in the amount of $50,485. That was proposed in the budget. I want to return the proposal by the Human Rights Department for their assistant to the budget line 564320 in the amount of $50,485.
Do I have a second? Yes, you will have to identify where the monies are coming from.
Contingency. We have $2 million
I'm sorry,
we put in it.
I'm so sorry. Legislative Paduk, point of order. I will be abstaining from this vote as I'm on the commission.
Thank you, Legislator Sutherland. Mr. Duke.
Just to carry on with the austerity part that I'm talking about, we put two...
Whoa. We have a motion in regard to the Human Rights Commission. Let's stay on that. You made a motion to put in for a proposed position. Where is the money coming?
Money would be coming from contingency. Contingency last year, we spent $10,000, and this year we're charging the taxpayers for $2 million in contingency, and probably not going to use much of that money either. That money could be funded for the department to hire that department assistant for the Human Rights Department at $50,485, so it would come from contingency.
Thank you. Mr. Kulisek, you confirm the second, correct? All right, are there any other comments in regard to this particular proposal? Legislator Steganka.
Deb, could you please clarify that? Because if we put that $50,000 in for that position, isn't there additional charges that are going to come to that that's going to bring it up to 80, 85 with?
85, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Legislators Anagostakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can someone explain to me whether that department, the commissioner, came before us? Did they request this? What was the discussion during that particular committee? I wasn't there, so can I have a little background by anybody that was, please? Thank you.
Legislator Sassy, you're going to have to.
Yeah, that was voted down in PNC, legislator.
Yeah, I'm not interested if it was voted up or down. I'm interested if the commissioner requested that position and what worked. It was, and we voted it down in committee. So we voted down her request.
Excuse me, Deb, could you clarify, because I don't believe that's the case.
Sure. It was included in the department request. The county executives changes defunded that position.
So the department requested it, but the county executive did not put it in his budget. Is that correct? All right, thank you. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right, any other comments on this? All right, let's take a roll call vote on that.
Bureau?
No.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnostakis?
Yes.
Benton?
No.
Cheney?
No.
Fagione?
No.
Hines?
No.
Kulisek?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
No.
Yuskevich?
No.
Sassy?
No.
Stiganga?
No.
Sutherland?
Abstain.
Tui?
No.
Nelly?
No. Motion fails. Okay, did you have one more?
Yeah, well, my last comment, really, just a comment. You know, I view my job as an elected official very seriously, and I want to do the best possible job for my constituents and all of Orange County like we all do. You know, that includes being fiscally responsible, environmentally friendly, supporting human rights, public safety and health care and housing. And I'm proud to do it to the best of my ability. And that's what we all were elected to do, which is why I make all my proposals. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you. All right,
I just want to thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the
Turn it on.
legislature.
you got to turn that on.
I just want to thank you for your time today. I just want to mention one quick thing. We have an open dialogue because this budget does get presented to me on November 15th. And rather than have me veto anything, majority of the legislators in this room have reached out to me to say, what do you think about this? When they ask the budget, what do you think about this? So it's not inappropriate for us to have discussions. I don't want to recommend to you to cut too much or too less. And because everybody in this room, minus John Vero and Jim Kulisek, have a 4-year obligation after this to do further budgets. So that's why I think it's important that we do have this. It is in your hands. But it then comes to me, and rather than have rough seas, we have had a great relationship over the last 8 years. We've gotten ourselves into a good shape. So, Mr. Chairman, that's where we are. And Mike, you know I love you. But 3 out of 5 Democrats decided not to show up today. If it's that important, your proposals, 3 out of your 5 Democrats decided not to show up. That speaks wonders, and I love you, Mike, you know it. We have a working relationship. Friendship is business, and I have to tell you, if it's important enough to make these changes, they should have showed up. Thank you.
Just a comment for the.
All right, hold on. We're not going to go back and forth. I have Legislator O'Donnell.
There's no control by the Democrats. It doesn't matter who.
Minority Leader Paduk, please. Legislator O'Donnell has been extremely patient, so thank you, sir.
Usually patient.
Patient this one.
I love you too, Mike. But I told you I would have supported you on this austerity stuff. So just please look at the film of this. There's no way I could support you today because I didn't know what the heck you were talking about half the time, all right? But I agree with you that you need more people on the vacancy committee. But if you're going to tell people that I said I would support you, and now I'm voting against your proposals, makes it seem to the public that I went back on my word. I voted against it just because the way it was presented. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Legislator O'Donnell. Are there any other comments, questions, proposals as it refers to the revision of the 2022 executive budget for Orange County? Legislator Fagione.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to take this moment to thank you personally for your guidance and help during this budget process. You were thrust into a situation that was something that wasn't prepared for, and you handled it with grace and with style, with knowledge, and with leadership. And I will be forever grateful for that. So thank you, and I appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, at this point, if there's no other comments on this, I'm going to call the question on the resolution revising the proposed 2022 executive budget for Orange County as amended. Bureau?
Yes.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnestakis?
Yes.
Benton?
Yes.
Cheney?
Yes.
Fagione?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Kulisek? O'Donnell?
Yes.
Riskevich?
Yes.
Sassy?
Yes.
Stiganga?
Yes.
Sutherland?
Yes.
Tui?
Yes.
Benelli? Yes. 15 ayes, motion passed. Motion is carried. Don't get excited, we still have number 2. G. Legislator Benton, resolution revising the proposed 2022 capital plan for Orange County. Just before I take any comments that there may be, the capital plan adjustments are as follows. We added $166,000 to the body cam project to include in the probation department. And then the new project of $75,000 was for a new bus for Valley View, and we reduced the medical examiner's building to an estimated capital plan number of $17,000 million, excuse me, thank you. Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. Thank you, I appreciate being corrected on that. Okay. Any questions or comments on the capital plan for 2022? Hearing none, then I'm going to call the roll on the revision of the proposed 2022 capital budget. Bureau?
Yes.
Paduk?
Yes.
Anagnestakis?
Yes.
Benton?
Yes.
Cheney?
Yes.
Fagione?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Kulisek? O'Donnell? Riskevich?
Yes.
Sassy?
Yes.
Stiganga?
Yes.
Sutherland?
Yes.
Tui?
Yes.
Benelli? Yes. 15 ayes, motion passes. Motion passes, and I believe the desk is clear. Is that correct? Right, motion to adjourn. I got one. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you all very, very much.